Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question comes to us from the True Stories collection, as in it actually happened at an event that I was actually judging. Amy plays Galvanic Iteration, and next she plays Memory Deluge. When the Memory Deluge copy resolves, how many cards will Amy look at? Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is take a close look at the exact wording on Galvanic Iteration. Notice that it does not say to cast the copy. This is actually the most common way that these types of effects tend to be templated. There are actually ones that say that you do cast the copy, such as Demilich. However, this is not the case here. Obviously, if that was what the Galvanic Iteration said, then it would be a really easy question. You would just look at the mana that you used to cast the copy, and that would be how many cards you would get to look at. As a little bit of an aside, you might be wondering why there are two different types of templates for this same sort of effect. And what you'll notice is that anything that copies a spell on the stack is going to use the same templating as Galvanic Iteration. You won't have to cast the copy because when you copy the spell on the stack, it's going to be created on the stack, so there's no need to cast it. On the other hand, if you have something like Demilich, which copies a spell that's in another place, well, in order to get that spell from wherever it is onto the stack, you're going to need to cast it. And so that's the reason why there's two different types of phrases that they use for this type of effect. Okay, so now let's return our attention to what would happen if we were going to copy the Memory Deluge with the Galvanic Iteration as proposed in the original problem statement. And so when we have that copy resolved, we're going to try to look at the top X cards of our library, but we're going to notice a serious problem with that. And that is that this copy was not cast. And because it was not cast, that means that the game is not going to be able to determine how much mana we spent to cast it. And so therefore we'll be looking at 0 cards. That's pretty sad, but I guess that's how it works. No shortcuts. Longtime fans of the channel might be crying foul about now. If you watched my video that had Twin Cast and Soul Blast, you might remember that in that situation, if you were to copy a Soul Blast, then the copy is going to deal just exactly as much damage as what the original did, even though the copy did not have a single creature sacrificed in the process of casting it. So what gives? Why is the answer different now? Well, okay, I have a confession to make. The answer for this one is a little bit technical. So, buckle in if that's the sort of thing you're interested in. This is the rule in the comprehensive rules that tells us exactly why that's the case. And so, if you read carefully, you'll notice something really interesting. If we need to know information about the objects that we use to cast the original spell, then the copy can use that same information. Now, objects would include the creatures that we sacrificed in order to cast the original Soul Blast. Mana is not an object as defined by this rule here, and so that means that when the game is trying to decide what kind of mana we used to cast the copy, we are not going to be looking at how much mana we used to pay for the original spell. Rather, we're just going to look at what we did for the copy. I really wish that there was a more intuitive and less technical reason to explain why this would be the case, but unfortunately that's where we're at. There's one more loose end that I wanted to talk about while I'm on this topic. If you look in the comprehensive rules, specifically in the rule that I pulled up just now, but a little bit before the passage that I put on screen, you might see something like this, which says that if you copy a spell, the copy is going to copy any of the decisions that were made in casting the original spell. Now, I can definitely see the point if you were to say something like, the mana that you used to cast the spell is one of the decisions that you made. And, that does make some sense, especially if the mana in your mana pool had some extra mana in it, and so therefore you did have to actually make a decision about which mana that you were going to pay. However, that's not how this line has ever been interpreted. In fact, these decisions have always been interpreted to mean stuff like the targets, or the modes, or the distribution or division of something like damage or counters, if that's applicable. They've never been interpreted to refer to the specific mana that you used to pay the mana cost with. And I really wish that there was some sort of stronger justification I could point to, but unfortunately this is the best that I can do. This is the way that that rule has always been interpreted, whether it was for something like Converge, or for the Mythoses, or indeed for Memory Deluge. If anybody has a less technical or more intuitive explanation for any of the stuff that I've talked about in this episode, I'd be really interested to see it in the comments. Unfortunately, that's sometimes how the magic rules work, and that's one of the things that makes judging so satisfying and doing this kind of research so important. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again tomorrow for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.